So, welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast, Deb. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Cleanne. It's great to be here.
So, Deb, what started you on this journey, and what's your story behind helping others achieve their weight loss goals?
Well, first of all, it's kind of interesting that it's not really as much about weight loss goals as it is about making peace with why you eat when you're not hungry. I use food as a way of bringing up what's actually going on in your mind and what's happening to you emotionally. And I just use food as a way of doing that. And the byproduct of doing that is actually weight loss. So the way that I started my story is that I actually started out as a chiropractor.
Mm.
And I think I had a practice for about 34 years. And I worked with my husband, and we had a very successful office. And the way that I got into that was actually my husband, who started chiropractic school, coming home and saying, "You know what? I think this would be a great profession for you." And this was like a long time ago, before chiropractic was a thing. Like when I would tell somebody, I didn't even know what a chiropractor was. So what I learned is the whole idea of how the body can heal itself. That's really the basis behind chiropractic. And that's what excited me about deciding to do something like that and switch careers. Because at that time, I was actually in early childhood, and I thought I wanted to work with little kids. So at 26 or 27 years old, which I thought was old, I switched professions to become a chiropractor. And what I loved about it was that I got to work with a lot of people, women especially. And I loved the healing process of being a chiropractor and letting the body heal itself. But what I loved even more was talking to people and understanding what makes them do what they do, and why can't they do these things that I'm telling them will help them, if it's from a nutritional point of view or a supplemental point of view, or you need to come in here before you're in excruciating pain. And the more I did that, the more it became a little frustrating with me that it was hard for me to get through. Like, I don't think I liked working on people's bodies as much as I liked working in people's heads. So I spent a lot of time talking to people, never could keep a schedule because I would loved talking to people. When I was around in my mid 50s, I started thinking like, isn't there something else that I could do? Like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And that's when the idea of coaching and becoming a life coach, which is very different from a chiropractic point of view, but at the same time, it was just life coaching was just becoming a thing. It's kind of like chiropractic too. It's chiropractic wasn't a thing that became a thing. And a life coach, when I first started saying, yeah, I think I'm going to go and learn how to do coaching, it was like, what is a life coach? But anyway, I started on that journey as I was still a chiropractor. And when I decided learning about what makes people do what they do, it comes a lot from what goes on in your mind. What you think, how you feel, creates how you act. And what I learned from that is what I wanted to help people with when I was still in my chiropractic office was I wanted to help them understand their minds better, even though I was working on their bodies. So I started putting my life coaching with my chiropractic, and I was doing more talking, and I was doing life coaching sessions and trying to help people take better care of their bodies, because that's what I did. And from that, what I realized about myself was that one of my major problems was an eating problem, that I knew everything there was to know about nutrition, everything. I told everybody what they should do. And I had a hard time doing what I was telling other people to do, which was basically all started out with a question that was asked to me is, why do you eat when you're not hungry?
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought of that before, because what I always did, I was always losing 20 pounds, always. So I think in my lifetime of being on diets, I probably have lost 250 pounds in my life. 20 pounds over and over again, up 20, down 20, up, down. And when I got through this process, when I was in my mid 50s, I was starting to hit menopause. The things and the tricks that I used to help me lose weight weren't working anymore, which had to do with points, counting points. And I never thought about what it would be like. What the question is, why do you eat when you're not hungry? I go like, what do you ask? What does that got to do with anything? What's that got to do with losing weight?
Mhm.
And yet, what I realized from that is I don't even know when I'm hungry and I don't even know when I'm full because that's not what I do. I only follow plans so I can lose weight. And then after I lost the weight, I was back to my eating when I'm hungry, eating when I'm not hungry. Hence, up and down 20 pounds. So when I started really getting into the life coaching, I was very interested in how the mind functioned with this that might be able to help me and that I might be able to help others, especially going through menopause. Because menopause is what woke me up to, I can't keep doing this. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to lose another 20 pounds because it was so much harder to lose 1 pound. And that is when I started my process of learning to eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full. And kind of came up with what I call my thinner peace process. Thinner, the inner
Mhm.
peace. I don't want to help people lose weight. I want to help people get peaceful inside of their body when they're around food and use it properly. And I never realized until I started putting this out how many people there were like me who had no idea when they're hungry, always losing weight, always feeling bad when they were overeating, always feeling like I never looked good, always looking at my body that there was something wrong. And menopause kind of brought the whole thing up. And it's like, I can't keep doing this anymore. Is that enough of my story for now?
So Deb, what do you mean when you say that a thinner piece? What do you
Yeah.
mean by that? Is that kind of like an acronym for something that happened, or is it something to do with like your whole journey?
I would say it has to do with my whole journey. And I think what it has to do with is I could lose weight. It wasn't peaceful. And I didn't feel at peace with myself, but I could do it.
Hmm.
And what I find with so many of my clients is that they know how to lose weight, but they aren't comfortable around food and they don't feel peaceful inside of themselves around a lot of things. And they're using food when they're not at peace. And food is not to help you feel peaceful. Food is not to help you feel happy. Food is not to make you feel more comfortable. Food is meant to fuel you because it's your existence in life. You need it. And for me, I learned when I was 12 years old that there was something wrong with me and my body. And that I started restricting food at such a young age because that was the message that I was getting. And that's how I got so far out of this idea of being at peace with food. I was at war with food. I was at war with my own body. And it was menopause, which a lot of people have a struggle with in itself, that actually, because everything got harder, I
Hmm.
actually tuned in more to what I actually needed and how food could actually be a benefit to me and not have to be at a struggle with it anymore.
So you're a life coach right now,
I
and
am. I'm not a chiropractor anymore. I
oh,
actually, yes, I stopped practicing about 6 or 7 years ago now. I'm just doing life coaching.
okay. So within that period that you have done the life coaching, have you seen or a difference in the lives of many women in terms of their mind and the food that they eat and weight loss?
Yes, I have. And I would say, like, I bring a lot of them on. I have a podcast too called
Hmm.
Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. And
Hmm.
I love to bring my clients on after they've done the process with me to talk about their experience. And one of the things so many of them say is it's not about the food. See, most of us, especially in menopause, we're going, well, what do I need to eat? What do I need to do? What is the problem? And the problem is in your head. And when I say I work with women who've been struggling with weight their whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever. It's a journey you've been on your whole life. And then and menopause just wakes you up to the idea that you can't keep doing this. Thank goodness for menopause, or else maybe I would keep it up and I wouldn't come up with anything. And maybe that's what would happen is we would think that, that we could just keep doing this thing, just eat when we're not hungry. So many of us use food and binge on it and storm on it. And it has nothing to do with hunger. And another thing is I really like to teach people that these foods, these non-nutritious foods, I call them joy eats. Like I think you can use some food for joy, not for nutrition, not for fuel, but because it tastes good. Not be afraid of it, but also be able to stop eating it and not to feel bad about it. And I think that's part of a peaceful existence too, is when you can eat that. It's like, oh, I would be bad if I ate it, or I'm bad, or that's a bad food. I had an experience where I had um, a lunch with a bunch of very brilliant, smart women. And we were sitting there and the food, it was a wonderful restaurant, and the waiter brought out a bread basket.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm around these brilliant women and they start passing the bread basket and go, don't keep it by me. Take it away. You take it. I can't control myself. And I'm going like, what is going on here? I'll take the bread basket. It's just bread. And that's what I want to do, is to help people be able to go, it's just bread. It's just chocolate. And you can enjoy it, but can you do it in a mindful way where you actually eat it, experience it, and can stop? And that is a practice, and you can learn it because it's more of a natural thing of your body to eat when it's hungry and stop when it's full. It's the way we were wired. And when we're eating something that's not actually fuel and it's a joy experience or something that you're just enjoying, then it's different. And we have to think of it differently in our own heads. So it's like we have to use a different part of our mind when we're eating a food like that. And when you realize that you can have anything you want, you can eat anything you want. It's just, what do you really want? Like, I used to think like, oh, if I didn't have any weight to lose, I don't know what I thought I would do, but I thought I was going to eat potato chips all day long and it would be great because I wouldn't have a weight problem and I could just do that. It's like, would I really want to do that? No. And I think once we realize that's not really what we want, we just want the freedom to believe that we can eat whatever we want. And we also can stop when we're done, as opposed to, no, I can't have that. Oh, I can't trust myself. And I think it just brings up so many things about our own culture and women in general. And it seems like food brings it up. And I think there's a lot of things that we can heal inside of ourselves by watching how we eat. And so I do a lot of watching with people on how they eat, a special kind of food journaling, in a way that we can tell the difference between when we're eating when we're hungry and when we're eating for other reasons. So it's not like food journaling to see what you're eating. It's more like food journaling to see what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more, I use food to bring up what goes on in your head. So when my clients say, it's really not about the food, it really isn't. And yet it's all about the food.
So, Deb, so you focus more on mindful eating.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what the life coach, that's what you coach about, more mindful eating.
I would say yes, if you want to call like mindful eating, is like it's like a mind body connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when your body says it's full, and we talk about even what fullness means, we use numbers, because full can be like, I use a hunger scale that goes from a -10 to a +10. So +10, you're stuffed, and a -10, you're starving.
Mhm.
And my recommendation is to eat between the twos, which means to start at a -2 when you're just getting hungry and stop at a +2 when you're just getting full. Realizing that fullness can go all the way up to a +10. So, what does it mean when you say you're full? The mindfulness is really paying attention
Mhm.
to what's actually going on in your own belly, that mind body connection. So, when I work with women, it's the same thing like as a chiropractor with pain. You can have pain at a +10, dying in pain, or you can have pain at a at a 2, which is a little bit of pain. Now, what I would tell my chiropractic patients is don't wait till you're a 10. Come in when you're about a 2 or a 3.
Mhm.
Don't let your body scream at you when your body whispers. Listen. So I speak a lot about becoming a body whisperer. It's not just about eating. Menopause is a very good time to get in touch with all of this because it's a time when you almost want to say, forget it.
So you're saying that the key to weight loss during menopause is more of a mindful eating aspect.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, excellent. So what services do you offer and how can the listeners get in touch with you, Deb?
Well, one of the services that I offer is I have like a free mini session where somebody can spend 30 minutes talking to me and to find out if the program and the process that I use would be helpful for them. Because it's not helpful for everybody. And so I don't want to waste somebody's time. So I think that's a good way to get to know each other to make that decision. And I also offer a companion podcast book or a jumpstart your weight loss book that goes with my podcast so that you can have something to follow at the same time that you're listening to it.
Mhm.
And you can get that by going to drdebbutler.com/change.
Mhm.
You can make a mini session with me by going to drdebbutler.com/work with me. And those are the two ways that you can talk to me and also do something at no cost and find out a little bit if the podcast that I have resonates with you by following along with the book, which might make you want to set up a mini session, or you may say maybe it's not for you. I think it's a good way to find out those two ways. I offer individual coaching,
Mhm.
one-on-one coaching, and then I also have group coaching that I'll open up the doors 3 times a year.
Excellent. That is great, Deb. Your podcast, where can the listeners, is it Apple? Is it
Yeah,
on
it's
Spotify? Okay.
Apple for sure. Most platforms it's on for sure on Apple, Spotify. I think most platforms.
Okay, sounds good. So
Yeah.
do you have any last words for the listeners about not giving up, especially women who are just starting out, maybe premenopausal stages? What do you say to them and how do they focus on their goals?
I think the one thing that I would say would be the one thing that was said to me. Why do you eat when you're not hungry? Or do you eat when you're not hungry? Because a lot of women will come to me and go, I'm in menopause and should I be eating protein? Or how much protein should I have? Or maybe somebody's into macros and it's like I want to start with, do you even know when you're hungry? Do you know when you're full? Do you trust yourself around food? If you do, don't call me. If you don't, you need to talk to me.
So anything else, Deb, that you'd like to share with the listeners?
I think what I would say is that, and this is my experience and with working with hundreds of women, is that your 50s, especially now that I'm older, is a time to get your act together. It's a wake up call. I use weight as the wake up call of if you're eating when you're not hungry, what are you hungry for? if it wasn't food. There's not going to be a better time for you than at this time of your life to figure it out. And I think your body talks to you more during this time. And if you listen and take care of it, it's asking to be taken care of. And your mind also is very malleable at this time. It's a good time to change the way you think. It's a good time to be able to look at your life in a different perspective.
So Deb, do you only do women who are in the menopause stage, or do you do, like, if somebody in the 20s come to you and seeking advice and want to go through your program, do you accept them, or you just do women who are in the menopause stage?
I have worked with women older and younger.
Okay.
Because the process is there and it works for everybody. I happen to like the menopausal stage because it was my process, but it will work. And I would love to train somebody in my process to work with young women because they don't have to wait to menopause. So yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you, Deb, for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, Cleanne.